Hello everyone, and welcome to the Florophiles, where we dive into the world's most fascinating plants and fungi, one species at a time. Today we're venturing underground, quite literally, to meet a botanical oddity that challenges everything we think we know about what a plant should be. Its name is Hydnora africana, though it's sometimes called jackal food. This bizarre organism spends nearly its entire life hidden beneath the soil. It has no leaves, no stems, and no chlorophyll. When it finally does show itself, it bursts from the ground with a fleshy, alien-looking flower that reeks like rotting dung. Why? To lure unsuspecting beetles into its trap. It's a parasite, a mimic, and possibly one of the most repulsive and fascinating plants you'll ever encounter. So where in the world does this bizarre life form exist? Hydnora africana is native to the dry, sun-baked landscapes of southern Africa, from Ethiopia all the way down to South Africa. But despite its wide range, most people have never seen it in the wild since it almost never shows itself. This plant spends nearly its entire life underground, hidden beneath the sandy soils of deserts and semi-arid shrublands. It's a parasitic perennial, which means it comes back year after year, but it doesn't do any of the normal plant things like growing leaves or making its own food. In fact, it belongs to the only known family of flowering plants, or angiosperms, that has no leaves and no visible green tissue at all. In other words, it doesn't photosynthesize. At all. Not even a little. Unlike nearly every other plant on Earth, Hydnora africana has completely abandoned sunlight as an energy source. This makes it an obligate parasite since it is entirely dependent on its host for water, minerals, and the sugars produced through photosynthesis. From the moment it begins to grow, its goal isn't to reach sunlight but to find a host. Underground, it develops a pseudorhizome, a creeping, stem-like structure that extends through the soil in search of nearby roots. When it encounters a potential host, typically from the euphorbia family, it deploys specialized structures called haustoria. These root-like organs are designed for a singular purpose, to penetrate the host's root system and hijack its resources. To do this, Hydnora africana produces enzymes that chemically dissolve parts of the host's root tissue, softening the barrier and allowing for deeper infiltration. Once inside, the haustorium wraps around or embeds itself in the root, forming an intimate and efficient interface for nutrient extraction. Now the parasite absorbs sugars, the host's hard-earned photosynthetic output, without giving anything in return. This deeply specialized lifestyle has allowed it to survive in arid, nutrient-poor environments where other plants might struggle. It's a fascinating example of how life finds unusual, even unsettling, ways to adapt, thrive, and persist in the most unexpected forms. Once it's settled in, well, patience is key. Hydnora is extremely slow-growing. It can spend years, even up to a decade, hidden underground, doing nothing that's visible to the human eye. All that time, it's slowly expanding its network and waiting for the right environmental conditions to flower. So when one of those bizarre, fleshy flowers finally bursts from the soil, usually triggered by a rare and generous rainfall, it marks the dramatic climax of years of quiet, unseen effort. The flower erupts from the earth like something out of a horror film, with thick, leathery petals that peel back to release a pungent, unmistakable stench of decay. It pushes through the soil as a squat, spherical mass about 4 to 6 inches or 10 to 15 centimeters tall, with a cracked, leathery outer shell that's often mottled brown or gray. Over time, this outer surface darkens further, eventually turning a deep gray-black, blending eerily with the desert floor around it. Eventually, the structure splits into 3 thick lobes. The flower is technically composed of a single, 3-parted perianth, not the usual petals and sepals of more familiar blossoms. These lobes peel back slowly, almost deliberately, revealing a stark contrast inside. A vibrant, almost alien salmon-orange interior that appears moist and fleshy, as though it were alive in a very different sense. This inner surface often glistens, aiding the illusion that the flower is something more animal than vegetable. The color and texture aren't for show. They're part of a calculated evolutionary ruse. Hidden deep within the flower's base are small, pale structures known as bait bodies. These don't just sit there looking interesting. They're chemically active lures. They are what releases the powerful, putrid odor that smells unmistakably like rotting meat or feces. And for some unfortunate beetles, that smell is irresistible. Drawn in by the scent, dung beetles and carrion insects crawl inside only to find themselves suddenly trapped. The interior walls of the flower are lined with stiff, downward-pointing bristles that act like a botanical one-way door. Once an insect enters, those spines prevent it from backing out. While trapped inside the chamber, the beetle begins feeding on the bait bodies, which, while not exactly gourmet, are rich in nutrients. But this meal comes with a mission. As the insect gropes around, it slips further down the tubular flower and lands directly on the anthers, where it becomes coated in pollen. Still trying to escape, it slides even farther down until it reaches a soft, cushiony platform, the stigma, where it accidentally delivers pollen collected from another flower. After the beetle spends a couple of days imprisoned in this strange, smelly chamber, the flower finally relaxes. The bristles soften, the bloom opens wider, and the insect is released. Now a pollen-covered delivery vehicle ready to stumble into the next Hydnora flower and repeat the cycle. It's a system that relies on deception, confinement, and just enough reward to keep the insect alive. And it works. If Hydnora africana wasn't already strange enough, wait until you hear about its fruit. Hidden beneath the soil, just like the rest of the plant, its fruit can take an incredible 2 years to fully ripen. It's not flashy or brightly colored, and you won't see it dangling from a branch, because it develops entirely underground, just like the flower it grows from. Surprisingly, this bizarre subterranean fruit is edible, and not just in a technically edible kind of way. It's been described as having a texture and taste similar to that of a potato, though it leans sweeter, especially once it's cooked. When baked over an open fire, the fruit becomes tender and starchy, with a slightly sweet, nutty flavor. In some regions, people mix the soft, gelatinous pulp with cream to make a dessert. Yes, a dessert made from an underground parasite that smells like feces. Nature is full of surprises. The fruit isn't just a food source for humans, though, it's a key part of the local ecosystem. Birds, baboons, porcupines, moles, jackals, and all sorts of smaller animals have been known to dig it up and feast on it. This interaction likely helps with seed dispersal, and with each fruit producing up to 20,000 seeds, there's a lot to go around. But the fruit isn't only valuable as food, it also has traditional practical uses. Thanks to its high levels of astringent compounds, the fruit pulp has been used in tanning leather and preserving fish nets. These compounds help prevent microbial growth and make materials more durable. An unexpected bonus from such an oddball plant. Despite its humble underground life, the fruit of Hydnora africana plays a surprisingly complex role. It feeds wildlife, supports traditional practices, and even finds its way into human cuisine. Not bad for a plant that most people will never even see growing in the wild. From a reproductive standpoint, the sheer number of seeds per fruit shows just how efficient and specialized Hydnora has become. It may take years to flower and even longer to bear fruit, but once it does, it makes sure the next generation has a fighting chance, buried beneath the sands of southern Africa. Everything about Hydnora africana, from its bizarre appearance to its parasitic lifestyle, makes it a true evolutionary oddball. It challenges many of our basic assumptions about what a plant is supposed to be. No leaves, no stems, no green pigments, and no photosynthesis. It doesn't grow toward the sun, and it doesn't even break the surface of the soil unless it's flowering. If you showed it to someone unfamiliar with it, they might not even recognize it as a plant at all. And yet, that's exactly what makes Hydnora so fascinating from an evolutionary perspective. It represents a kind of radical trade-off. Over millions of years, it has shed nearly every trait we associate with typical plant life in favor of extreme specialization. In giving up photosynthesis, it also gave up its independence. But in return, it became incredibly efficient at surviving in a niche where few others could compete. Hidden underground in some of the driest parts of Africa, completely tied to the roots of another plant. This specialization is so extreme that evolutionary biologists have used Hydnora as a case study in what's known as reductive evolution. The idea that losing complex traits can be just as beneficial in the right context as gaining new ones. Instead of adapting to do more, Hydnora adapted to do less, but to do it in a highly specific and efficient way. Its weird, almost alien appearance hasn't gone unnoticed by pop culture either. With its fleshy, gaping flower that looks more like something from deep-sea horror than dry scrubland, Hydnora has inspired everything from science fiction concept art to appearances in documentaries about the world's strangest organisms. It wouldn't look out of place on an alien planet, and yet it's hiding underfoot right here on Earth. So while it may not tower above the savanna like a baobab or dazzle with color like an orchid, Hydnora africana turns the whole idea of what it means to be a plant on its head. It's strange, it's secretive, it's specialized to the point of absurdity, and it's one of nature's most fascinating outliers. In conclusion, what exactly is Hydnora africana? It's a plant, but not in any way we're used to thinking of one. It doesn't photosynthesize, it doesn't have leaves, it barely ever sees the light of day. Instead, it lives almost entirely underground, latching onto the roots of other plants like a botanical vampire, drawing everything it needs from them. Its flower, the only part that ever breaches the surface, reeks of rotting meat and feces. Carrion beetles and other insects lured in by the smell get trapped inside the flower and in the process, pollinate it. It's a floral trap with evolutionary precision. Its fruit grows out of sight and takes years to ripen, yet it's surprisingly edible and even sweet when cooked. Animals dig it up, feast on it, and unknowingly help spread the thousands of seeds hidden within. Even the pulp serves multiple purposes, from food to fishnet preservation, giving this strange plant value beyond its looks. And yet Hydnora africana challenges us. It makes us rethink what it even means to be a plant. It's traded the typical plant blueprint of leaves and chlorophyll for extreme specialization, an evolutionary gamble that seems to have paid off in the harsh environments of southern Africa. Hydnora africana looks like something out of a science fiction movie, and in fact, it's inspired quite a few. But this is no alien. This is nature. Weird, wonderful, and real. Thanks for watching the Flora Files, where we dig deep into the world's most fascinating plants and fungi. If you enjoyed this look at Hydnora africana, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment about the weirdest plant you've ever heard of. And stay tuned, we've only just begun to explore the botanical bizarre.